let's give this a go. So happy July 7th, whatever that may mean for you. Hopefully, wherever you are in the Facebook world, it is cooler than my front porch right now because it is sweltering outside. So we thought we'd have a quick conversation, Lynette and I, about performance management in the age of COVID. The reason being is now we're coming into July, which technically is for a lot of people the end of Q2. And the conversation about performance reviews and development goals starts to come up. So whether you have a performance reviewing system or whether you don't, and you've been thinking about it, this is the opportunity to ask some questions or to think about some other considerations during this time. So to start us off, Lynette, why don't you tell me a memorable story that you had as an employee where you were given a performance review?
Yeah. So in my early 20s, I worked for the government of Canada at an arm's length agency. And I was a student at the time, and I received a performance review where I did not meet expectations, which was devastating for me. And coming out of that meeting, I was really confused what had happened, what had gone wrong. And what I realized is I didn't meet the expectations because they were never explained to me. I didn't know that I was supposed to be performing certain tasks. So obviously I didn't meet the expectation because I was never told that I was expected to be doing that task. So ever since then, and especially in my career in HR, I find expectations so important for managers, for employers to explain to employees what is expected of them, because employees can't achieve what you want them to. They can't perform how you want them to if they're never told what you hope to see them doing. So that's something that has always stuck with me.
I find it funny being in HR and having performance reviews because technically we're supposed to be the experts in this, right? The experts in how we do it, the experts in how to make it happen. So my story is kind of, similar to yours. I had a performance review with my supervisor, and I was so nervous the day of, and it went well. And afterwards, she's like, I just took a breath of relief. And she goes, "What was the big deal?" I was like, "I don't know. I didn't know what you're going to say. Like, maybe I'm doing an awful job and I didn't even know." And she looked at me like I had four heads, which was a really great lesson for both of us, because what it meant to her was that there was not enough communication all the way through to let me know that my performance was fine. So this one meeting caused so much stress because I didn't really have a clear understanding of what she thought of my performance for the last 9 months prior to our last quarterly review. And I say 9 months because we all know performance reviews are of the best intentions.
Yeah, exactly.
Our quarterly, annual, whatever it may be, you started off in January with goals and all that fun stuff. And then Q2 comes by and we're like, oh, we got to get it done. And then all of a sudden Q3 is here and we haven't had the conversation. And now it's the end of the year and you're supposed to finish off your Q4 performance conversation, and you haven't literally talked since 9 months ago.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think figuring out that whole facilitation of the process is a whole nother chat, because we're hoping not to be more than 5 minutes, but you put me on a microphone anywhere and you'll get more than 5 minutes. So my first question I kind of was thinking about was in this day of COVID, when it comes to performance reviews and development conversations, if you have a status quo performance management system and everything is turned upside down, should we be considering abandoning the program or halting it, putting it on hold for a short-term period?
Well, I would say no, definitely not. You need to continue the performance conversation. Otherwise, you're going to get into situations, in 6 months where you're running to your HR representative and you're talking about all the different issues that you have with the employee and you want to take disciplinary measures. So don't let it get that far down the path. I think you need to revisit your performance review, and you need to look at the questions that are there. There's probably a lot of goals and objectives that you've set out that aren't relevant anymore for how the workplace is running. a lot of organizations have pivoted. The way they do business has changed, so that needs to be reflected in the performance review. So I think you just need to take a look at the system that you have in place, and it needs to be revised.
Yeah, and I mean, that's not an easy task in and of itself. We've done that for a few clients already, just tweaking to make sure that it's not tone deaf, that it is relevant. So here's the opposite question. If you don't have a performance review system and development and goal setting system in place currently for your teams, is now the time to start?
I think it depends on the situation in your organization, but I think it's always important to have performance reviews in place. And I think it's just maybe the size of the performance review that you put in place. You can start small and build it up and get it to be a bigger program. But you definitely need to be having those conversations around performance, even if it's just a check-in, a
Mm-hmm.
small check-in to see how your employees are doing, and to provide them with some feedback. You need some type of system in place.
Yeah, we can call it performance and development light.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't think anybody should shy away from starting at this point, because one thing I think we do lack especially when people have been removed from offices and now are working remotely, is the amount of communication. So if you think about how much communication you have, just the social amount of talk and chatter that you have in a day, and that has all been removed. And we probably don't focus on it so much when we're all working remotely. So supervisors probably aren't just calling to check in or just saying, how was your day yesterday? And we've had these conversations, and my mental state through some of this has been tough. And I'm sure I'm not alone in that. I'm sure there's a lot of people who have found working remotely, whether it be with families at home, really difficult. So I think maybe even that whole starting the performance and development conversation isn't so much about looking back as much as it is about where are we now and where do we want to move forward to. Because so often we think of performance reviews as only into the past, and we don't consider how much of it really should be into the future. In your opinion, what would you say, like say a performance conversation is half an hour, 45 minutes, what percentage of that do you think is forward thinking versus backwards reviewing? Or how much should it be?
Well, I think it would be interlaced throughout the conversation. I mean, you definitely need to look at past, there might be some achievements that you want to discuss. And I think it's really important to celebrate those things that have gone well. And maybe there's things that you need to build on. So you need to acknowledge them, and then definitely be forward thinking, as you said, making plans, looking to the future, how you're going to continue to develop the employee.
So I have one more question on our quick, now it's turned 15 minutes, see? A quick little chat. So if you have an employee who has previously or historically done very well, but has had a fairly large hiccup through this, and you want to have those performance conversations and those development goals, how would you approach that type of individual who for years on end has been stellar, but maybe isn't having the same type of success in this current situation?
I think there's a lot of listening that needs to be done, and try and understand the challenges that employee might be facing. Maybe they're struggling with the technology that they've never used before. Maybe they have childcare problems. Maybe they don't have a good workspace at home that they're working from. Try and understand what's going on with that employee, especially if you have a well-established relationship with them. Ask them the questions before you start making accusations, and have an open conversation with them, and then be prepared to work with them to find solutions so that they can perform to the level that they were performing before.
These are the type of questions that we get from our clients. Typically when we go through performance conversations with managers, wondering how to move forward with certain individuals and in certain situations. So I just wanted to say to the Facebook world, this is what we do. We have conversations about performance. We help you walk through situations. We navigate complex situations and let you sleep at night knowing that you have some people who know a lot about the legal implications of what you're going through and how to get to the next steps easily and with little stress on an emotional turmoil on your end, because it can be extremely emotional when dealing with complex employee situations. So thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, Lynette. I appreciate you coming on and making the time. And we'll catch you next time. We'll hopefully see you in about a month's time to do this again.
See you later. Bye.